Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm going to see if Jeremy, I don't know if there's anybody waiting in the waiting room because we still don't have Omid on here either. So let's see if we get a few more people here. Send him a message. While we are waiting for everybody to come on here and get Omid in here, our guest speaker, just giving you guys a quick couple updates. So if you haven't already, and again, I know a lot of you have, but we do have some new faces. If you have not been on the Facebook Energy Connect page, please make sure that you are in there liking it. Join. That is where all of the updates are that we do have through Energy. And then if there's anybody who has any buyer or seller needs, you can definitely unmute yourself and let us know if you have any, listings out there that you need to get moved, or if you have any buyer needs that you are having a hard time with right now. So if there's anybody out there that wants to unmute themselves for that, you can go ahead while we're waiting.
Good morning. This is Erica.
Morning.
I do need a house in Eden Prairie, please. If any of you have anyone, any house, it has to be like all finished in 3 bedrooms at least. A single
Erica,
family house.
what's the price point that you're looking at?
From $350 to $420.
Okay. I have one coming up in Eden Prairie, but I think it's out of that price point.
Oh, so. Okay, yeah, they're really expensive. I know. Okay,
yes.
well, yeah.
Yes,
If
I'm
you
like,
see
yeah.
anything, please let me know. Hmm?
I will jot that down too and see if there's anything that pops up for new listings, and make sure that we let you know right away about that as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other buyer or seller needs that we need to talk about before we let Omid take over?
This is Andrew Gonzalez.
Hey, Andrew.
Hello. So I have an investor that's looking to buy a shaggy property. So anything under like 120, he's looking within the Twin Cities, any area pretty much. Not too far off in Boondocks. He said I'm like, I'm willing to go anywhere, but anything under 120, 100,000, he's looking to buy to invest. He's not looking to do electrical work or anything like that. He's a contractor, so he's willing to rehab a place, but not do like electrical work. If he needs anything like that, then he doesn't want to jump on that. But shaggy places haven't been updated. He's willing to jump in those. So if you have anything, keep me in mind.
Okay. So are we thinking maybe like 30, 45 minutes outside of the Twin Cities?
Yeah, that should be fine. I mean, that would be, I think if it's something, he was willing to go to Albertville. So I imagine so, that would be an option. We went to take a look at one and it just wasn't.
Okay. Perfect. I will add you to that list as well, Andrew, and we'll see what we can find.
I do have a listing, and it's an as-is property. Like, the reason I say as-is because the seller doesn't want to do any updates, painting, flooring, nothing at all. And he doesn't want me to put as-is on the description. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what your seller would like to do, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Can I ask what the reason is why he doesn't like want to put it on there? You can put it in the agent remarks, maybe?
Yeah, I have put I took it off, but I did not take it off from the agent's remark because that's
Okay,
not very visible. So I let it stay on the agent's remark, but I took it off the description. The reason for him is he thinks there are not too much traction. I know it is because of the price. He doesn't want to go on down on the price. Uh, but he thinks that it is because it people see as is and they think that it is not up to date. So he's afraid that that's the reason where people are not coming. There are no showings.
what price point is that in?
It's a condo, one bedroom condo. Um, it is as now it is 129.9.
Okay,
Uh, but there is another property for 129.9 in the same building, but that's all up to date. New painting, new flooring, new cabinets, everything. But he says all old. I'm trying to ask him, I'm asking him to compare apples to apple, but
yeah.
sometimes the sellers are difficult and I don't want to like, oh, that's my money. I need to get that much of money. He has that kind of feeling. So I'm just letting him feel the market.
Yep, that's a really good idea. Just, I mean, the market will speak to you. I always say that it's going to tell you where you need to be. That feedback is so important. So, um, I will pull that listing too and kind of take a look at it and see what that one looks like
Yeah.
and give you some feedback on that too.
Sure, thank you. And if you want the address, I can shoot you the address too.
I can actually find it underneath your MLS, so I already got it wrote down. So you're good.
Okay, got it. Thank you. It's in Edina.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, we are going to get started here today. Thank you guys for sharing that. And again, if you ever need any help with listings, reach out if you need somebody to do some open houses for you. We always have agents that are looking at doing that on their listings if they can't. So there's always opportunities again out there to get buyers. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Omid and let him speak. And he's got about 45 minutes with us here, and then we'll see if there's any questions at the end or anything else we can help you with. All right, Omid, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, Jill. Hi,
Yes.
everyone. I have a short presentation that I'm gonna do here. Just a second while I figure out how to share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm representing We Buy Houses. Quick background on myself. I used to be an agent in Minnesota for quite a long time, about 19 years. And for about the past 5 years, I have been handling acquisitions for a local investment company. The name of our company is Livli Homes, but we recently purchased WeBuyHouses.com, which is not really a franchise, but sort of operates on a franchise model. This is the local branch in Minnesota, WeBuyHouses.com. We're a small local team. We only buy houses and we only do residential and commercial in Minnesota. We're a small team. We try to mainly build relationships with agents so that we can do a bunch of investment deals together pretty much. I consider us to be pretty sophisticated problem solvers because what has kind of happened is we buy a lot of properties off market that are coming from highly complex situations like probate deals, bankruptcy deals, and so we have to kind of sift through those. Experience, we kind of pay really close attention to the market and what's happening, I would say, on a daily to weekly basis. So we're very sensitive to and adaptable to the changes that are happening in the market. And we do a lot of volume, so we pretty much have to really stay on top of it with what we are seeing in the market. In the past 4 years, a couple of statistics that I wanted to run through. We've had 100% close rate after we get under contract with a property, and if there are any contingencies, after any contingencies are done, we have 100% close rate. That's something we pride ourselves on. We don't back out of deals once we commit to buying them, which is something I think is pretty important in the investment world and something that I have seen to be uncommon in the local market. We've closed 484, we've acquired 484 units in the last 4 years, 96,000 and some change, which are commercial square footage, and 661,000 residential square footage. So that's kind of a lot of homes that we've done, more so in 2021 and 2022 than activity went down a little bit in the past couple of years. So that's pretty much what we've done in the past couple of years. I like to call us L buyers. I know most of the companies that buy houses cash are I buyers, but I like to focus on the locality of our services. We do work outside of the Twin Cities, but mostly in the Twin Cities and surrounding metro. The benefits of a local buyer are that we're kind of focused on the immediate markets that we service, so we care more about our communities, and we're not just trying to like buy everywhere. How to introduce me to your client. Most agents kind of just tell their sellers who don't want to go on the market that I have an investor who would probably be interested in your house, and it's an option to have you look at the house and make a cash offer on it. So most agents introduce me to their clients or their sellers as an investor buyer. The types of properties we buy commercial, we buy residential, everything from townhomes and condos to single family residences. We're currently doing a few apartment buildings and a few other mixed use commercial buildings as well. Markets where we typically buy in the Twin Cities and surrounding metro. We have gone as far as Rochester and as far north as St. Cloud, Bemidji, and Duluth. We've also bought a couple in Wisconsin, and probably I would say as far west as Watertown and Wilmer. But we typically just buy in the first, second, and third ring suburbs. Price points that we buy in. We try to focus mostly on under 400,000 or 500,000, but sometimes if we have a specific need for a higher end homes, and if we're buying at a good enough potential profit margin, then we will buy in those areas. Investment criteria, I'll go over a little bit more with some of the other slides that I have. I want to mention that we look at all leads, and so we welcome all leads, because even if it's not one for us, because of our network in the investment world, sometimes we have a fit for properties that don't fit our model necessarily, but we can help get rid of it if we have someone else who we work with who's particularly looking for that kind of thing. So I'll give a quick example. We have a client that we bought some commercial property from, and now he wants to buy land where he can build self-storage, automated self-storage. So we're helping him try to find that, and it's not something that fits directly in our model, but if we find it, we buy it and sell it to him. Benefits to the agent of having us come and make an offer. So as an agent, I remember before I was on the investment side, I used to kind of wish that I always had an investor buyer. In today's market, it is just, you're kind of a hero if you can create more or better solutions to your seller. So having us is kind of like having a local hedge fund, and it's just another option for your seller as to different ways that they can sell their house, whether they want to go on the market or whether they would prefer not to. We bring speed, confidentiality, convenience, and precision. For speed, we can close pretty fast. We've literally found deals that were going into foreclosure that we had to close within 2 days, and we were able to make it happen. Confidentiality, some people are in situations where they don't necessarily want to put their house on the market or have a lot of people walking through their home, or they might have some other form of sensitive situation going on where they need to sell their house. Convenience, we bring a lot of convenience, which I'll go over later. And precision is we're typically able to close precisely when they need to close and how they need to close. Streamlined transactions, we tend to bring a lot of convenience to the situation, which again, I'll go over in a little bit, to make transactions more streamlined. Everyone at my company has a lot of experience solving a lot of problems and closing a lot of deals. So we're able to pretty much make it a pretty like easy situation and not too complex. Simplified paperwork and processes. We handle all the paperwork in our deals. So I like to compare it to when you sell a new construction and the builder does all the paperwork and they have all the processes in place. It's just like an easier deal for an agent to do. Even if someone brings us a deal and we don't buy it, I handle acquisitions at the company, so I'm pretty much the point of contact when agents bring us deals. I do provide a lot of insight and feedback on the property, whether we get it or not. I know that that's a valuable thing to agents because the worst thing is not having feedback if you have something for sale. So I know that that helps a lot. I know like if someone has a listing and agents go and show it and they don't give any feedback, it kind of sucks. So one thing I want to highlight is that we're happy to pay fees and commissions. We try to be as fair as possible and pay as close as possible to 3%. And we're very flexible about how we handle a deal. If an agent brings us a deal and the seller needs to net a certain amount of money, we're happy to pay the agent's commission and they can represent us as well. They can do a dual or they can do a one-time showing agreement, or typically sometimes they'll facilitate for a flat fee. Working with us, a lot of agents get paid faster because we can close deals faster since it's cash and since we're not waiting for an appraisal and we're not waiting for underwriting. And when an agent has a house for sale, sometimes it's great to go on the market, but when it's not a good situation to put the house on the market, you don't have to wait for a buyer to get an inspection to, go through financing and underwriting. We have a lot of successful partnerships with other agents that we work a lot with. A lot of times when we work with an agent, I'm sorry. Did someone have a question?
10:30 or so.
I'm sorry?
Jeremy, could you mute everybody but Omid, please?
So we have a lot of successful partnerships with other agents, a lot at NRG, but also at different companies. Typically, when we work with agents, we kind of develop a working relationship with them where we can help them if they have sellers who have properties where they don't want to take them on the market, or a lot of times they'll send us their buyer needs. If they have a buyer who has trouble finding something, we kind of keep an eye out for that as well. Benefits to the client or why your seller should sell to us. Few conveniences that we bring to the table, we buy as is. So say you have a seller who doesn't feel like finishing the basement, painting, changing carpet, that kind of thing. We take it as is, and typically they don't have to do anything else to it because we prefer to do the work to it ourselves. We pay closing costs. We assume items that are left behind. A lot of times we'll get houses where, we get everything from hoarder situations to just situations where sellers have been living there for a couple of decades. They have the waterbed, they have the encyclopedias, they have bookshelves for stuff they don't need, and we save them the trouble of moving or decluttering, and we assume things that are left behind. So we work with a couple of nonprofits. We try to donate what we can, and there's a lot of stuff you can't donate, so we recycle. But we typically try to bring as much convenience to the seller as possible. Agents who work with us have access to our resources. As investors, we develop a lot of different relationships with different companies and just resources that are helpful for everything real estate related or sale related. We pay for inspections if they're needed. So an example would be if a lot of houses in Minneapolis and St. Paul have a tish, or they require a tish before you sell. We typically will pay for the tish, so that there's no expense for the seller. Golden Valley and South St. Paul have a required sewer inspection, which we'll pay for. Like I mentioned before, we have no financing. There's no appraisal. Me, as an acquisition manager going to the property, I'm sort of doing an appraisal and an inspection when I'm there. As I mentioned before, there's no underwriting. We take away a lot of the uncertainty of going on the market. And I asterisked inspections because there are some occasions where we typically don't do inspections, but if there is a pool or if there's a septic that's questionable, then we will do an inspection. It's usually not contingent on that inspection, but it's kind of a massive expense if it does fail. So for our planning on the rehab that we're gonna do, we need to know if like the pool or the septic work. Valuation process. Our pricing is pretty much driven by the market. As I mentioned before, we keep a really close pulse on what's going on in real estate. There could be a week or two that are slower than other weeks. As I mentioned, we do a lot of volume, so we really try to keep a pulse on that. I'll give a good example. At the end of 2002, rates suddenly went up, activity stopped, and we wound up what I consider we closed on the houses that we were under contract with, but in a very short amount of time, the entire dynamics of the market changed. And so we basically lost our profit on 17 to 20 houses that we had purchased within 1 month. Timeline, some of the things that we look at are timeline. We like, if you bring me a deal, then we like to know when the seller needs to close, the price they're looking for. Agents don't always need to give us a price because we're going to offer where we need to offer, but it helps to know what the seller needs to net, because then with all the other factors that we're taking into consideration, we try to see how close we can get to the price that the seller needs. And if we can pay the seller's price, then it's a no-brainer and the deal moves along pretty fast. We like to know the seller's motivation, and the condition of the home. This helps me do an assessment before I get to the property. If I can find out some of this information before, and it just kind of speeds up the process. The motivation is really important because it kind of gives us a notion of how to proceed with the deal. Sometimes like people inherit a house that they want to sell, or they get a job in a different place and that's their motivation for moving. Sometimes there's a divorce situation that's sensitive. So it kind of determines how we proceed with the deal. Extensive market research and analysis is pretty prevalent on a weekly basis at our company. We're constantly studying the market and seeing what's going on, because it could any minor piece of data can determine if we have a profitable quarter or not. And then there are a lot of different macroeconomic factors that affect how we price, how we value properties that we go after. One common example would be where interest rates are at. If there's an election coming up, seeing what's going on with the general economy and that kind of thing. What to expect with an offer. So the process is, I typically get a call from an agent, or sometimes not an agent, who's got a house to sell, or they know of a house to sell. I try to get there as fast as possible. Typically, I go the same day if possible, or the next day. The factors that we consider, which I went over in the last slide, condition of the property, the way the market is, the resale factors, take those into consideration. And then we make an offer and negotiate, and we typically offer within 24 hours. There are a lot of times where we will offer the same day. So I saw a house, for example, on Sunday, and I made an offer on it on Monday morning. So we're pretty speedy about making offers. And then there's a surety of close. which means after we get under contract and if there are any contingencies, once those are taken off, we 100% commit to closing. Acquisition timelines. So I typically, as I mentioned, see the property immediately or as soon as possible. We get written offer and a proof of funds over within 24 hours. I would say that happens about 99% of the time. Sometimes there's negotiating going on, and we kind of finish doing that before we send one clean offer over. Negotiate and finalize the deal, and then closing timeframes. We are pretty much ready to close immediately. But then sometimes closing timeframes will affect the amount of money that we can offer. For example, we have a couple of deals now where we got under contract about 40 days ago, and the sellers want to wait till their kids graduate from school, or they want to wait till they move at the end of August. And that closing time frame sort of makes us have to offer a little bit lower because we're assuming more risk, not being able to predict the market that far out. And also with the way the climates are in Minnesota, the closer to winter it is, we have to take that into consideration. But we're typically able to close within 24 hours or as soon as title work is complete. And we use a title company that can typically get title work done within a couple of days if we need them to. Exit strategies. A lot of agents ask me about exit strategies. So depending on what the property is and how it fits in our model, we do buy and holds, we flip and we list. We work with other investors sometimes. There are times when we buy properties that we don't necessarily, like it's not an ideal fit for us, but we have a lot of investors that rely on us to find them what they're looking for. We have investors that, they kind of work in a specific area, and anytime we find, and they want us to find them, there might be someone who looks for fourplexes in Eden Prairie. So if we find a fourplex in Eden Prairie and we have a lot on our plate to manage at the time, sometimes we buy and sell to them. We do a lot of contract for deeds or situations where we buy and we do seller financing for a potential buyer. This is one of the reasons, this is one of the ways that we help a lot of agents on the buy side. Some agents come to us and they have clients who are not able to get financing at the moment, so we'll sell to them on a contract for deed. Flips, and then we help a lot of agents find homes for their buyers or other investors. Examples and case studies of some of the deals that we are either currently doing or have recently done. I'll just kind of go through these situations and go over a couple of examples. We have an investor who did a contract for, he bought a house. We've bought houses from him and he's bought houses from us. And one of the houses he sold on a contract for deed, the guy defaulted. And so he introduced us to the guy so that we could, or who was living at the house, so that we could buy it out from him and make the investor whole. Divorce situations we deal with a lot. Sometimes they just don't want to list their house on the market, and they kind of want a more quiet sale, in which case we come and we just kind of quietly buy the house and they move on with their lives. Seller needs to relocate ASAP. I got a call on Saturday on our, actually I got a submission on our website, and I called the owner. His wife got diagnosed with severe rheumatoid arthritis, and so they have to move somewhere warmer because she can't deal with the cold. So they need to relocate ASAP. We're going to be buying that house, and that one's in Rosemount. Hoarder situations, we get some of those all the time. Tired landlords, we're buying a house right now in Mound where it's a great house on a lake, and the tenants trashed the house. And so the landlords are just kind of tired of dealing with it. And so we're going to be closing on that one pretty soon. When deals fall through, we get a lot of we have a lot of landlords who call us when someone falls through on a deal that they were supposed to buy from them. So an example that I have is a recent duplex in St. Paul. There was an out-of-state wholesaler who never showed up to the closing. And so we got a submission on our website, and we were able to buy the house from this landlord within a few days of when he was supposed to close on it. And he was able to make his 1031 on the next property that he was going to get. Foreclosure, we got a lot of foreclosure deals. Absentee owners, there are some people who inherit a house or something and they live out of state, or they can't manage the properties that they have here from a different state. So we wind up getting a lot of those properties. Probate, we got a lot of probate deals. We have relationships with some probate attorneys. A lot of those ones are on the more complicated side, as well as commercial deals. Right now we're working on a few apartment deals. We get mixed use buildings, strip malls, that kind of thing. So office buildings. So if anyone has any of those, we are interested. I'd like to play a couple of
Selling a home to an all cap.
I'd like to play a couple of reviews that we have from agents who have dealt with us. And here's what agents think about working with us.
Investor often comes with this like connotation or this idea that the offer is going to be so low that it's not going to make sense, or it'll barely make sense if it makes sense at all, right? And oftentimes it leaves our sellers feeling a little just dirty, taken advantage of, and kind of frustrating, right? And I hate that. Shouldn't be that way. Like, I felt that way before. I knew how it feels. But what I found is that working with Omid and his crew, they make offers that are reasonable, right? And they're all cash, and they also include a few extra incentives that have been huge blessings for clients that we've worked with, right? And another thing I also like is that working with them is extremely simple, right? Step one, I just submit the property to Omid. I text him, I call him, talk to him. He'll set up a showing. Step two, he sets up a showing. Step three is he'll get back to us with an offer that's reasonable, that also includes some great incentives, as well as a really flexible closing timeline, right? And so with them is what I realized is that there's really no reason to feel like we're going to be taken advantage of. There's no reason to feel like it's going to be unreasonable, because Omid and their crew, man, they're helping. Now I'm realizing they're helping hundreds of individuals and families get reasonable offers that are all cash with flexible closings and a couple extra incentives that make a huge difference for these sellers. So if you ever need a cash offer from an investor that's going to close on time, that's going to be really smooth and will be reasonable, that also has some few extra incentives for your sellers that are huge blessings, man, I'm telling you, call Omid. He's going to take care of you.
Hello, my name is Adriana Lanik. I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and I've been working with Omid for a while now. And one of the things that I like the most about him is he's an honest and genuine person. So I do really feel like he is considering my seller when he's giving a cash offer to them, or, you know, whatever that might look like. He's not trying to completely lowball them and just like get the bottom line. He presents an honest and fair offer, and he's always really, really quick to get somebody to the property. He's quick to respond to my texts and calls. And he always has good feedback. So I really enjoy working with him and presenting him as an option to my sellers who might not be looking to get their house ready to be listed. He provides a really great alternative to them, and I really appreciate what he does.
So that concludes my presentation. Questions?
Do you guys have like a weekly list that you send out to people with like the properties that you guys have, or no?
We don't. There have been times that we did before. But we're more specific about, we don't like to send the blasts. The reason why is usually we don't have that much inventory left over, because we have kind of a wide network. So say, for example, like this house that we got over the weekend in Rosemount, right? When I was doing my assessment, there were 0 actives within a half a mile. And so we have a ton of people who are just kind of, they always want a house south of the river, and this one literally needs paint and carpet. So by the time we have it, it's kind of like we have about 10 people that we can call saying, hey, we have this house we're buying and we're going to do the paint and carpet within a couple of weeks, and then it's going to be available, right? So we don't really do the blasts. Also, the blasts do get kind of noisy. And so we kind of want to be on a more like relationship basis with people, not just if we get a property that we rehab and we want to resell, or if we get a property that's great for an investor, we don't want to just like blast it out to a bunch of people. We just kind of specifically keep track of what people's buyer needs are and what people are looking for, and so we can match them with the right thing, and it's less noisy that way.
So if we have something that we're specifically looking for, then we just let you guys know, and then
Absolutely.
you'll follow up with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions out there? Are you seeing any kind of like, I guess, I would say in the past, couple weeks, obviously, I think we're still in the traditional real estate, low on inventory. But we are kind of seeing an uptick on that. What are you kind of seeing market wise that you think even on the, not traditional side,
On
play out
the
for the rest of the year?
I think sellers are pretty bold right now. Well, bold might be the wrong word. I think sellers are pretty aggressive about sticking to their pricing. So I don't think it's like an oversaturated seller's market at all. I think if a property is priced right, it'll fly right now. And it depends also on the different price points. Like the high for entry-level properties, where first-time home buyers are buying, those are like almost impossible to find. But with the weather now, I think it's picking up a little bit. What I see a lot of investors who are flipping homes doing are trying to get them done really fast to be ready for the summer and the fall. But it's on the investment side, it's really always active. It's just really always active because like people need to sell and investors need to buy. So there's always activity in an up market or a down market. And on the retail side, I see a little bit of inactivity in situations with like new construction, for instance, or houses above 500,000, but anything under 500, I still think there's low inventory. And people are still buying, regardless of interest rates, because they realize they can refi if rates go down. And there's really nothing to wait for.
It is kind of crazy just because I look at the expired list every morning, and the amount of new construction homes on that expired list continues every day to kind of go up. It's crazy.
I have a lot of sellers who call trying to sell new construction, and they'll have a house that they bought brand new in like 2021, right? And then I'll look at it and it's like they paid the same amount that for like a completed new construction in the same development that just got done now, but is brand new. And the builder wants the same price. So there's a little bit of saturation in that market. But if it's not brand new construction and it's under 500, I think those are flying as long as they're priced right. I don't really see that much like a long time on the market unless if the house needs work and they're overpriced. But I do think there's low inventory at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions out there?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for your time today.
Omid, what's the best form of communication for you? Are you like call, text, email? What's the best for people to get a hold of you?
I like being on a cell phone basis with people. I just think it's easier and faster for people to call. And then
Okay.
usually if people are calling about a deal, we can save a lot of time and talk about the deal, see what the expectations are. So I really prefer phone calls or text messages. And I think everyone has my number, or I can give it. It's 612-245-7020. I can put it in the chat.
Perfect. Yes, I always ask that because it's just easier to reach out that way. So absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time. If you guys have any questions, if you have a property, definitely reach out, give them a call. Next week, we are going to be going over our buyer rep agreements. Randy is going to be on the call with us. So definitely if there's, questions around that, we're going to be kind of opening up the floor to a lot of questions and concerns, coming up with those buyer reps. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, everybody have an amazing week and go out and do something great.
And if you have time, I do have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a client who bought a commercial property probably 5 years ago, and they rezoned it to be residential, and they want to know how much it's going to cost if they want to sell it. They wanted me to do a comparables. So I am not very sure if I go to residential, it doesn't pull up any data, any information. So is there a way that I can pull up comparables for this commercial, which is converted to residential? How do we deal with this?
There's definitely, you're gonna have to probably sift through the MLS closed. Comparables in that zip code is where I would start, so go in, do a search, check, commercial, check the zip code, closed properties or pending properties. And you're gonna probably have to do it that way. There is, LoopNet, but you have to pay to be part of that on the commercial side. But
Okay.
there's definitely options out there, and just to kind of see. But that's where I would start. Any of the commercial properties that I've done, I just kind of start there because commercial is a little bit different, than residential. So it is hard to find comparables. Plus, you're going to probably have to open that search range out a little bit further. What kind of commercial property is it?
I think it used to be a call center like long time ago. And they wanted a single level, and this was single level. So they just converted inside. It's a big, huge hall with the bathrooms and meeting rooms and stuff, initially with cabinets, cubicles. They removed the cubicles and converted that to be a home, Rambler.
Okay.
Added kitchen and added extra bathrooms and stuff.
Okay.
So
That's where I would kind of start. And again, you're just going to have to sift through some of those listings and look at the pictures and really see what is a good comparable to that. And then I would probably tell you, reach out to Francis as well and see if he's got somebody specifically that he can, send you over to for commercial, maybe help you a little bit more with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah. All right, you guys, well, go out and have an amazing day. Let us know if you need any help. Otherwise, we will see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for all the information. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.